Hey, it's Tim with the University of Vinyl. Thanks for tuning in again today. It is just north of 90 degrees here in northern Colorado. It is turning into a very, very steamy summer again. And my thoughts have turned to funk, R&B, soul. Mainly R&B is what I'm going to be covering in this video. I've got 5 really, really good albums I want to kind of showcase and talk about a little bit and recommend. If you don't have them, you might want to seek these out. I'm going to do a couple needle drops and I don't know. That's what we're doing today. That was a bit of a snippet from the great Quincy Jones track Body Heat. I recently found this for like $10. It's a double LP from 1976. Quincy Jones, I heard that. This is on A&M. It was mastered by Wally Traugott. When I saw WLY in the dead wax, and also the fact that this the records in here are basically near mint, I snapped this thing up. Quincy Jones is just an amazing person in the music industry. All of the production that he is behind, but he is a great recording artist in his own right. And this is a really cool album, double album actually. It's the second LP is actually a comp, and here's a look at the gatefold. But it kind of gathers lots of his great songs from some great albums in the late 60s and early 70s. There's a look at the inner sleeve, kind of showcasing those albums. I don't have any of these. I don't see a lot of Quincy out there when I am looking, or I haven't really been aware of him or thought to pick anything up by him. But the more and more I get into more different kinds of music, I'm gonna be looking for these albums. You know, Smackwater Jack, Gula Matari, Walking in Space. These look like great albums. Here are 3 more on the other side. And this includes track 3, Body Heat, which you just heard a little bit of on my system. Now, the first album was actually newly recorded songs and covers. The standout on this is Superstition, of course, the great Stevie Wonder song. He brought in Stevie, who plays harmonica on that. And then we've also got the brothers Johnson, who are on bass and guitar. George Duke is on keyboards and synths. Phil Woods has got a sax solo. Cat Anderson takes a trumpet solo. This is the inner for that first group of songs. I'm just working my way through this thing, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. Highly, highly recommended. Again, it's kind of a combo package. The first album were newly recorded tracks in 1976, 1975. And then the second LP is basically a comp from his early 70s A&M label albums. Great, great, great package. In 1973, Marvin Gaye came out with his 13th studio album. That was the fantastic Let's Get It On. This was 2 albums down the line from What's Going On. And this is a fantastic album. The theme of this thing, according to Marvin, was sex and love, love and sex. How the two sometimes are intertwined, sometimes they're not. A fantastic, funky R&B masterpiece, 1973. Of course, the title track was Actually, only the second #1 hit in Marvin Gaye's career. Let's get it on. Um, just to keep you satisfied, You Sure Love the Ball. That was a single as well. Um, some risque themes on this album, but it hits so good. It sounds great. I have an early Motown Tamla pressing. These are pretty easy to find out there in used bins. Highly, highly recommended. Some people just talk about what's going on, but I recommend you check this out if you are an R&B soul freak. Next up is the fantastic 1973 release from the Spinners called The Spinners. You would think that this was the greatest hits album. I have an early pressing on Atlantic. This was their third album, the first after they left Motown. So this was on the Atlantic label. I've got George Piros's nomenclature in the dead wax. So it's a fantastic sounding pressing. There's that familiar Atlantic Records label from the early 1970s. This is a Presswell pressing. One of a Kind Love Affair. Could It Be I'm Falling in Love? I'll Be Around. Those are the fantastic standout cuts, but there are this thing is a knockout from track 1 to the final track on side B. It was recorded at the legendary Sigma Sounds in Philadelphia, produced by the equally legendary Tom Bell. Fantastic Philly soul R&B kind of impresario producer. Great name out there. If you know anything associated with Tom Bell, snap it up. The great Spinners album. Love that kind of retro cover from 1973. Highly recommended. Okay, also from 1973, we have the second Daryl Hall and John Oates album, Abandoned Luncheonette. I just recently heard a podcast, the Bob Lefsetz podcast, kind of an music industry insider, former attorney. He does a newsletter, very prolific, and now he's got a podcast as well. Anyway, he had Daryl Hall on a couple weeks ago, and Daryl Hall said, this is the album to have if you don't have any other Daryl Hall and John Oates albums. You need to have Abandoned Luncheonette in your collection. This of course has got the huge hit She's Gone, and it really wouldn't become a hit until later, a couple albums down the line when Rich Girl came out. Then I think they put out She's Gone as a single, and people started buying this album. It didn't sell hardly anything when it was released. Great Philly soul album. Really recommended. I think early Hall & Oates is the best Hall & Oates, although I'm a fan of their 80s output as well. Great album. Recorded also, partially recorded at Sigma Sound in Philadelphia, and then I think they worked at the Power Station in New York for the rest of the album. 1973, Abandoned Luncheonette. This is actually an old diner that apparently had been moved from New Jersey into rural Pennsylvania. The guys went there one day and got the photographs with a friend of theirs. Were eventually chased off the property, but kind of a cool backstory. I read about it on Wikipedia. Daryl Hall and John Oates featuring She's Gone. Last but certainly not least, we need to include the 1975 album by David Bowie, Young Americans. This is the album that preceded Station to Station, which came out the following year. Definitely moving into kind of blue-eyed soul R&B. Famously, Luther Vandross is singing backup on a couple songs. I think he co-wrote one song as well. And then we've got a cover version of Across the Universe, and none other than John Lennon is playing guitar and singing backup vocals. He also sang backup vocals on the huge hit Fame from this album. This was a big, big hit for Bowie. It comes during my favorite, period for Bowie, which is 1975, all the way up to like 1980. I think this is when he was at his creative peak. Also, kind of inundated under a blizzard of cocaine. There's stuff online you can read about that, but he would apparently wait in Philadelphia for a dealer to arrive from New York so he could get his powder and be able to record all night at Sigma Sound again in Philadelphia. They also finished up in New York, I think, at Electric Ladyland and the record plant in New York. So many good songs. Young Americans, the title track. Fascination, words by Bowie and Vandross. Right, which is a great song. Last song on side one. And, of course, we have Somebody Up There Likes Me. One of my favorite David Bowie songs, clocking in at 6 minutes and 30 seconds long. You've got the cover Across the Universe, which I mentioned. Can You Hear Me? And then finally, Bowie, Lennon, and Carlos Alomar get credits for Fame, clocking in at 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I think I have a second a repress on that tan label, RCA US pressing. Would like to maybe get my hands on a UK pressing and do a comparison. This sounds pretty good. The music is even better. That is Young Americans, 1975, David Bowie. Thanks for watching today. I hope you guys and ladies are staying cool wherever you are this summer. Put on some of these albums if you have them in your collection. If not, again, they're highly recommended for a slice of R&B, soul, a little bit of funk thrown in as well for good measure. Thanks for watching, and I will be back very soon.